we have success in this country. You can look at charter schools and schools of choice. They outperform the public schools in many big cities. And yet, Democrat governors try to block the kids from getting out of a failing school and getting into a successful path to learning and to a successful path to being a productive citizen. Brian Jodice is the National Press Secretary of the American Federation for Children. He joins me now. Brian, nice to see you here on the program. Look, this is the fact. Many of these charter schools, many of these private schools, the parochial schools, they outperform the public option incredibly. Why would we not give kids the chance to learn, to succeed, to become productive members of society? Thank you for being here. And where do you want to begin?
Well, Steve, great to be with you and good morning. And look, I was listening earlier and you've been talking about accountability.
Right.
And it's a really great narrative for our conversation because for far too long, there really has been a lack of accountability across this public education system that, look, for many kids, it's meeting their needs. But for those who it does not, their family should be empowered to go find the environment that's going to work best for them. And look, I know there's a Michigan-Ohio rivalry and you're a Michigan guy, but to your south, the most recent data out of Ohio shows that kids on their school choice program, it's been around for about 20 years, they're outperforming their peers. They're actually having higher attainment rates to get to college. They're more likely to graduate, while at the same time, though, while they might be outperforming, those public school kids are actually doing better when they're in and around the program. So it's a rising tide. It is the way that you empower families. You get kids in the place that best meets their needs. Money follows them, but the teachers union doesn't like it, so they fight it every step of the way.
Well, that's right, because they're not empowered to take money from those private schools and those charter schools. They can't go in and reach into somebody's pocket and take cash, those being the unions. You're exactly right. Look, I don't have to look to Ohio. I can look to Detroit and say, look, all the charter schools almost across the board outperform the public schools in the city of Detroit. Look, Michigan used to be one of the top five school systems. Michigan used to be top 5 in education. Right. We're now in the bottom 10. Maybe we need to start following and paying attention to Mississippi, Ohio, and other places where it's working. Isn't that right, Brian?
Exactly. And it's also not a spending issue. So they'll tell you, we need more resources. I looked it up right before we got on the air. Detroit spending about $17,000 a kid in public schools, yet only 6% of them on the most recent NAEP scores are proficient. Meanwhile, private schools across Detroit are maybe having tuition at about $8,000, maybe $10,000 a student. I care to bet they're doing very well. And it's really right. To that point. It's about.
I think if you look at Flint, you'll find that they spend even more money in Flint, Michigan, and the numbers and the performance are just as dismal. So look, why would the teachers union, or why would parents even allow to ignore what is an option that is really working? And here's what I believe, Brian. I think that the money should follow the student. I believe that for a long time. I don't give a crap about the AFT or the NEA. I care, or the MEA for that matter. I care about the kids and I care about the future, because those kids need the best education possible to contribute to this thing we call America. And so I'm done with the unions. I'm done with the failed education system. I'm done with kids that can't read, write, or do arithmetic. It's time for a better path forward. And so I'm with you.
Well, and you've got the same mindset as everyday Americans, right? And because we sit at the kitchen table and we sit across from our students and we interact with them and we watch them across their journey and we see that the way the life is happening for them. And we want the end user in this, like you do, the student, to be the one who's at the center of this. And that's the beauty of school choice and the beauty of school choice programs. And whether that's public charter schools, homeschooling, private school choice programs across the country, they're student-centered investments back into that student. That's why we're so excited for the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, which enshrined the very first of its kind national tax credit that can be used across the country to grow school choice, even in states like Michigan, where you have very limited private school choice programs. And right. So this is a really big win for students. And that's the key, right? Student-centered investment, student-centered funding.
Well, you're exactly right, Brian. And look, we saw, I think it really began about 2022-23 in Virginia, because that was the rise of the parents saying, stop. You can't just take my kid and turn Sally into Stevie or the other way around, and you can't do that in secret. And we get to know what's in the educational plans, and we get to be part of it. We're the parents. The government is not the parent, we are. And there's this rise in parental rights and demands to be involved and demands for better outcomes. Look, public schools in too many places are failing the American school child, and we need to do better. And if this is the path to do it, then it is. But you also made a great point. in places around this country where you have successful charter schools, you also have successful public schools. It raises everyone. I'll give you the last word.
Well, and I think you hit on something there, that time frame, because you're a few years after COVID, and families are really faced with watching the way in which education was delivered to their children, the way in which they consumed it and sent it back out, and also just the lack that was there. I mean, we went through this in our own household, and a lot of families said this just isn't meeting our needs anymore. We couldn't get answers on when we'd go back to school, and then when they got back to school, the influence machine was cranked up even more. And so all this is about is letting families and parents be in the driver's seat. Every state's going to have school choice soon. The One Big Beautiful Bill Act unlocks something really incredible, and we're excited to see the way in which it grows and the way in which it can help kids in every state in America.
Yeah. Greatly appreciate you being here, Brian. He's from the National Press Secretary of the American Federation for Children. We need more common sense conversations. Look, if it's not working, admit it. If something else is working better, admit it. Do what's right for the kids and not what's right for your ego or your fundraising operation that has nothing to do with the kids. I think that's where we'll leave it today. Brian, thank you for being here. You come back anytime.
Yeah, thanks, Steve.
Really appreciate it. There you have it. Look, it's about the kids. It's about education. It's about making it a better country.